I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. Happy Friday. I don't know about you guys, but it feels really good to be starting the weekend this week. Maybe I say that every week, but definitely being a mom full-time in addition to working pretty much full-time, it's a lot. So we definitely earn our weekends around here. Anywho, I have two mini stories for you guys here at the top, so let's jump into them. First up, the Justice Department is now holding former President Trump in contempt of court for failing to release classified documents that they requested last summer. This is following outside investigators hired by Trump himself finding more classified documents in a storage locker that Trump owns. Things are not looking good for Trump in the Mar-a-Lago fiasco, and it's hard not to ask yourself, what the hell is in those documents? And for our second mini story here at the top, right now, I just want to let you guys know China is lifting their widely unpopular zero COVID policy. But the thing is, they may not be ready to open up in the same way that the rest of the world is, because they do not have as high a percentage of their population vaccinated. So it actually could be pretty dangerous just to lift all the precautions, but they're doing that. So either way, this is what's going down, and we'll have to just wait and see what happens. Now, of course, here at the top today, we had to start with Brittney Griner. So finally, Brittney Griner, the WNBA star and Olympic gold medalist, has been freed from Russian prison. If you guys remember, she was convicted in a Russian court of having hash on her at a Russian airport. She has a medical card here in the US to legally have weed on her, but she did not remove it from her bag before traveling. The Russian courts sentenced her to 9 years in prison there, and she already had spent about 10 months incarcerated in Russia, wondering if the US cared enough to negotiate her freedom. Fortunately, the Biden administration was able to make it happen. They swapped a Russian prisoner here in the US, known as the quote-unquote merchant of death, in exchange for Brittney. This merchant of death guy, Victor Bout, was known for his arms dealings, creepy smiles, and a prominent mustache. He was actually convicted in New York of trying to systematically kill Americans. So the exchanging him for Brittney was not exactly one-to-one. You know, she had a tiny bit of hash on her while he was an actual dangerous human being. There is still an American man named Paul Whelan, though, who is stuck in Russian prison on false charges. Paul is a former U.S. Marine, and he was there years before Brittney got there. But the U.S. tried to negotiate his release as part of the package with Brittney's, but it seemed to be at no avail. The Russians literally were like, you can have Brittney or no deal. Paul was not an option. So upon his announcement, Biden said that Brittney was on a plane back to the U.S., and he did so with Brittney's wife, Cheryl Griner, by his side. it's hard to think that Brittney will come out of this experience fully okay, but we're just grateful that she's free and coming home. We're offering our prayers for her healing and the hope that Paul Whelan is able to be freed soon as well. Next up for today, women are suing Apple over AirTags. Okay, so if you don't know what an AirTag is, it's this tiny circular chip that has a GPS in it. Apple developed them to help people find anything they wanted to hook that chip to. So when AirTags first came out, it sounded like a great idea, in general. Do you lose your keys often? Do you want to track your luggage in case it gets lost? But of course, given human nature, people didn't hesitate to find nefarious usages for these little babies. And now women are suing over the use of AirTags by stalkers. Tucked in the wheels of their cars, in their child's backpacks, there are a ton of places that stalking victims are finding AirTags carefully placed by their stalkers. This is, of course, in order to track the movement of their victims. Advocacy groups for both stalking and domestic violence had warned Apple ahead of time about this exact type of misuse, and yet, here we are. The tags cost only $29, so the price point is easily accessible. Apple came out as condemning the use of AirTags for malicious reasons, but that really isn't doing anything to help the stalking victims being harmed by them. The lawsuit against Apple was filed on Monday, so we'll see what happens with it, and if there's any major movement in this case, we'll be sure to let you guys know. And last up for today, we are discussing Celine Dion's diagnosis. So Celine Dion, you guys, my heart will go on. The woman, the myth, the legend. She has just announced a heartbreaking diagnosis of stiff person syndrome. And this condition is exactly what it sounds like. It's where your muscles get a lot more rigid. And unfortunately, it's triggered by a lot of things that her job would entail. She posted an emotional video on Thursday talking about her symptoms, muscle spasms, things like that, and how they have affected her singing. She actually had to cancel the remainder of her world tour. But the shows were rescheduled, some of them at least, for 2024. But it's really hard to imagine that she'll be any better by then. And this is a degenerative condition that is affected by loud noises, for example. But she says that she's working with a team of health professionals to get in shape for her performance. So let's hope she can do that. We know that her fans will love her regardless and show her the support anyone deserves with such a serious diagnosis. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Almost anything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you." I hope everyone has a restful and restorative weekend. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour. Broadcasting from Oklahoma.